This is the Sleep Historian. Each night we explore the echoes of the past, stories told slowly to calm the mind and ease you towards sleep. If you enjoy these quiet journeys through time, please like and subscribe, and let the next story begin. Long before maps linked continents, a quiet network of paths wound across the heart of Eurasia. You stand at dawn on a plateau where pale light spreads over grasslands that seem to roll into infinity. Hooves have pressed shallow grooves into the soil, forming the beginnings of roots that will one day connect empires. The air is thin, cold, and clean. A distant caravan moves slowly, its silhouette small against the rising sun. No one here thinks in terms of east or west yet. Travelers simply follow valleys, rivers, and the logic of survival. But these early tracks are already stitching worlds together. Walk toward a cluster of tents at the base of a hill. Traders boil tea over a small fire, its smoke curling gently into the morning air. Their goods are modest: felt, wool, salt, dried meat. They speak in different dialects but understand each other through gestures and patience. Exchange is simple: a few items bartered, a few stories shared, then farewells. These early encounters plant the seeds of something extraordinary. Over centuries, these paths will expand, evolve, and merge into a vast web of routes stretching from the Mediterranean to the Pacific. The world is about to grow wider. Centuries pass. Empires rise along the edges of these ancient tracks. You find yourself near the western edge of China during the Han Dynasty, watching soldiers reinforce a frontier watchtower. The desert beyond seems endless, its sand shifting in long, quiet waves under the wind. Behind the garrison lies a bustling outpost, its market filled with lacquerware, grain, and bolts of shimmering silk. That fabric, soft, strong, lustrous, draws distant attention. Foreign envoys arrive seeking its source. The Han court recognizes both opportunity and danger. To secure trade and protect routes, they push their influence westward, tying distant lands together by necessity and ambition. Follow a Han envoy named Zhang Qian as he crosses rugged valleys and frozen passes in search of allies. His journey will open the first formal links between China and the deserts of Central Asia. You travel beside him through narrow mountain gorges, where ice clings to the rocks and wind funnels with a sharp, constant whistle. Horses stumble on loose stones. Guides consult the sky for weather changes. When Zhang Qian returns years later, he brings stories of powerful kingdoms, grazing lands, and new trading partners. His travels mark the moment when scattered paths become something deliberate, a connected corridor across the continent. Step into a frontier market along the Gansu corridor. Stalls line the dusty street, shaded by canopies of reed and cloth. Merchants unpack woven carpets from the west, jade from the mountains, and medicinal herbs collected in remote valleys. The sound of bargaining fills the air, soft, rhythmic, almost musical. Silk remains the most coveted luxury. When sunlight catches its threads, it glows with quiet radiance. A Roman trader far from home holds a small piece between his fingers, marveling at its lightness. Though neither he nor the local merchant shares a language, the fabric speaks for itself. Exchange becomes its own form of communication. Travel westward into the Taklamakan Desert. one of the harshest landscapes along the Silk Road. The sky is a white-blue expanse, unbroken and vast. Caravans move slowly, each camel carrying bundles of silk, spices, or metalwork. The heat shimmers along the dunes. You hear only the soft groan of saddles and the steady thud of padded feet. At night, temperatures plunge. Traders huddle around small fires, pressing their hands toward the warmth. Stars spill across the darkness in uncountable patterns. Routes shift constantly here. A wrong turn could erase a caravan. Survival depends on memory, cooperation, and a practiced reading of the land. Nestled along desert edges are oasis towns, small worlds of water, shade, and culture. You arrive in Dunhuang, where willow trees line canals and prayer banners flutter above temples. Scribes work in narrow studios, their brushes moving across scrolls of bamboo and paper. Travelers carve messages into wooden slips, recording prices, weather, or blessings for safe passage. Cave temples nearby hold murals depicting foreign faces, strange animals, and distant cities. A visual record of everything that passes through. Dunhuang becomes a living notebook for the Silk Road, preserving the movement of ideas as carefully as the movement of goods. Continue west into the Tarim Basin, where languages and traditions mix like threads woven into one cloth. You hear Sogdian traders speaking quickly as they negotiate deals, their fluency in multiple tongues essential to commerce. Nearby, an Indian monk asks for water before reciting gentle verses from Buddhist texts. This region becomes a crossroads not only of trade but of faith. Buddhism travels northward, carried by wandering monks and translated by local scholars. Caravanserais echo with conversations about karma, compassion, and meditation. These ideas find fertile ground, reshaping cultures far from their original homelands. The Silk Road spreads philosophies as easily as spices. High mountain passes form some of the most challenging segments of the Silk Road. You climb a narrow trail along the Pamirs, where jagged peaks cut into the sky like stone blades. Air grows thin. Snow crunches underfoot even in summer. Caravans move slowly, each step measured to avoid injury. At a sheltered ledge, traders rest their animals and share warm broth. A young traveler from Parthia traces the route ahead on a wax tablet, while a guide from the region points out safe paths and hidden hazards. Despite hardship, there is a sense of shared purpose, a belief that on the far side lies opportunity. Descending from the mountains, you reach fertile valleys in Sogdian territory. Towns here are vibrant, filled with musicians, translators, and the best middlemen on the entire road. The Sogdians thrive by connecting worlds: Chinese, Indian, Persian, and Roman. Their letters describe profits, dangers, and family news with equal care. In a courtyard shaded by apricot trees, traders examine bolts of silk, weighing their worth by hand. Children run past carrying clay figurines of camels. Farther inside, a family hosts visiting merchants, serving bread, nuts, and fermented mare's milk. Hospitality smooths the rough edges of long travel. This region becomes the central artery of Silk Road culture. Journey now into Persia, where royal roads extend across plains and pastures like neatly drawn lines. You walk through a city square, where artisans hammer silver into delicate bowls, embossing them with scenes of hunters, lions, and winged figures. Spices spill in colorful piles across market benches. Saffron, cardamom, cinnamon, sumac. Their aromas mixing in warm afternoon air. Persian officials maintain waystations that offer food, water, and shelter. Couriers ride between them at remarkable speed. Their efficient system becomes a backbone for Silk Road communication. Messages travel almost as reliably as goods, and empires stay connected across great distances. In the shadow of Zoroastrian fire temples, priests tend flames that symbolize purity and order. You stand by a quiet brazier where the fire's glow reflects in polished metal vessels. The teachings of Zarathustra about truth, choice, and responsibility filter into discussions among travelers. Merchants from India speak of rebirth. Buddhists offer stories of compassion. Greeks introduce philosophical puzzles. In tea houses along Persian roads, ideas flow freely. People debate fate while sharing bread and stews flavored with herbs from distant gardens. These conversations leave no physical record, yet they shape the mental map of the ancient world as powerfully as any caravan. Move westward into Mesopotamia, cradle of some of the earliest cities. You walk beside the Euphrates, its muddy banks lined with date palms. Small boats glide along the river carrying grain, pottery, and letters sealed with clay stamps. Near a marketplace, scribes bend over tablets inscribed with cuneiform signs, remnants of a venerable tradition. Here, trade blends with deep memory. Caravan routes merge with river routes, allowing goods from China to reach markets that have existed for millennia. In a quiet courtyard, a teacher recites ancient myths to students sitting cross-legged. The past and present overlap gently, as naturally as water flowing into water. Entering the Levant, you reach cities where cultures intertwine with striking ease. Stone streets lead past synagogues, temples, and early churches standing within walking distance of each other. Markets here offer glassware of great clarity, bronze mirrors, embroidered garments, and scrolls of sacred text. You watch a merchant pack frankincense and myrrh into small leather bags. These aromatics travel vast distances, prized for rituals and medicine alike. Sailors prepare ships to carry goods to Mediterranean ports. The Silk Road is no longer only a land network. It is now a hybrid of sea and sand, stitching continents together with patient persistence. Reach the shores of the Mediterranean at Antioch, a grand trading city alive with noise and color. Camels unload their cargo at the edge of the city, while sailors shout instructions at the harbor. Warehouses brim with silk, spices, glass, and metalwork awaiting distribution across Roman domains. In a shaded courtyard, a scholar from Athens debates astronomy with a traveler from Taxila. Their exchange feels effortless. The Silk Road turns strangers into participants of a shared intellectual world. When a local artisan displays a small bronze of a foreign deity, no one is surprised. This city thrives on difference, expecting it, welcoming it. Board a merchant ship bound for the western sea lanes. The deck creaks as sailors adjust ropes, guiding the vessel out of the harbor. The wind carries scents of salt, resin, and distant land. Silk bundles are stored below deck, protected from moisture. Amphorae filled with wine and oil lie carefully packed beside them. As the ship moves westward along the coast, you watch port towns pass by. Tyre, Sidon, Alexandria. Goods from the Silk Road mingle with produce from local fields. The Mediterranean becomes an extension of overland routes, a blue thread connecting markets as surely as any desert path. Arriving in Egypt, you travel along the Nile, where boats glide past fields of barley and flax. In bustling Alexandria, scholars study maps showing the world's known geography. Scrolls describe lands far to the east, their information carried by merchants, monks, and envoys. In a scriptorium near the harbor, a copyist carefully redraws an image of a Chinese dragon on a parchment. He has never seen one, but the details fascinate him. Egypt becomes a hub of interpretation, where knowledge from the Silk Road is processed, translated, and reshaped for new audiences. Curiosity becomes a product as valuable as silk itself. Finally, step into the far west of the ancient world, the Roman Empire. In Rome, senators drape themselves in garments woven from silk, unaware of exactly where it comes from. Demand grows rapidly. Roman gold flows eastward in great quantities, concerning statesmen who fear wealth leaving the empire. Still, trade continues. Silk becomes a symbol of status, diplomacy, and mystery. Roman writers speculate about the people who weave the fabric, imagining them as distant magicians. As caravans and ships complete their long journeys, the Silk Road reaches its thematic end, a meeting of worlds that have never seen each other, yet profoundly influence one another. The Silk Road is not a single path, but a shifting network. You watch as traders choose different routes based on seasons, politics, and opportunity. Some paths loop north around deserts, others cut through mountain passes. Still others trace southern valleys or follow rivers. This flexibility keeps the Silk Road resilient. When war disrupts one segment, merchants adjust. When a city declines, another rises to take its place. The road is less a line than a living organism, adapting, branching, converging. Through these changes, movement never stops. People, goods, and ideas continue their patient drift across continents. Caravanserais, fortified inns, dot the landscape at regular intervals. Enter one near Bactria, its courtyard shaded by tall wooden beams. Inside, camels kneel to rest, their loads removed. Travelers wash dust from their hands at a stone basin, while cooks prepare simple meals of rice, lentils, and flatbread. You listen to conversations in multiple languages mingling in the warm air. Merchants discuss prices. A monk recites prayers. A doctor shares advice about treating fevers using herbs from distant mountains. These busy rest stops become the Silk Road's beating heart, offering safety, nourishment, and shared knowledge. Disease also travels along these routes. In a small village near Samarkand, you watch a healer prepare poultices for patients suffering from unfamiliar fevers. Caravans sometimes carry pathogens from one region to another, weaving invisible threads of risk into the fabric of trade. Yet medical knowledge travels too. Physicians exchange treatments, Indian herbs, Greek theories, Persian surgical practices. A wandering healer learns pulse diagnosis from a Buddhist monk and later teaches it in a Roman port. Even hardship becomes a channel for connection, prompting communities to adapt and share what they know. Along the road, music becomes a universal language. You sit near a fire where travelers from 3 regions share melodies. A Sogdian plucks a lute-like instrument. An Indian musician keeps rhythm on small drums. And a Chinese traveler plays a bamboo flute. Their sounds intertwine effortlessly. Musical styles shift as they travel. Instruments evolve, combining shapes and techniques from different cultures. A tune born in one valley may reappear hundreds of miles away, transformed but recognizable. These soft exchanges leave deep imprints on local traditions, carried forward through generations, long after the performers part ways. Art also moves with caravans. You enter a workshop in a Central Asian town, where local artisans paint murals influenced by faraway styles. One wall shows Greek-inspired figures with flowing garments. Another displays Indian lotus motifs. A third features swirling Chinese clouds. These blended images become a signature of Silk Road culture. They appear in temples, palaces, and everyday objects like pottery and textiles. The road does not erase differences, it layers them. Art becomes a memory of encounters, each stroke carrying traces of places where brush and eye have traveled. Ideas of governance, law, and philosophy drift along the Silk Road as readily as spices. In a shaded courtyard, officials from two kingdoms meet to discuss treaties. Their scribes compare notes on contracts, property rights, and taxation. Some principles remain unchanged. Others evolve as rulers borrow methods that seem practical. Philosophical texts travel too. Greek works are translated into Persian. Buddhist sutras migrate through Central Asia. Indian logic reaches China. Each region absorbs what resonates and reinterprets the rest. This quiet blending influences how future civilizations think about justice, order, and the nature of human life. Religious ideas travel in parallel with goods. You visit a monastery carved into a cliffside where monks from different regions share chants and stories. Along the road, merchants carry small amulets for protection. Buddha figures, fire symbols, crosses, crescent moons. A traveler may leave home with one belief and return years later with another, shaped by encounters at caravanserais and mountain shrines. The Silk Road becomes a ribbon of sacred curiosity, where people explore meaning as naturally as they exchange coins. This spiritual drift leaves enduring marks on communities across Eurasia. As you step back to observe the first great phase of the Silk Road, you notice its defining trait: flow. Goods move, yes, silk, spices, metals, glass. But so do stories, melodies, customs, and hopes. No single empire controls this movement for long. The road belongs to the motion itself. Caravans continue disappearing into horizons both east and west, forming a slow, steady pulse. What travels is less important than the connections formed along the way. The ancient world, once divided by deserts and mountains, becomes gently and irrevocably entangled. Centuries pass. The Silk Road enters a new rhythm. You travel during a time when empires stabilize large stretches of territory, making movement safer. In China, the Tang dynasty rises with confidence, reopening routes and encouraging foreign merchants to settle in its cities. Chang'an becomes a vibrant hub where markets overflow with spices, perfumes, tapestries, and carved ivories. You walk through its western quarter, hearing voices from across Asia. Sogdian traders mingle with Korean envoys, Persian musicians, and Indian monks. The air feels alive with openness. Along the road, caravan traffic increases, and the Silk Road glows brighter than ever, flourishing under shared stability. Buddhist pilgrims travel in both directions, carrying teachings across mountains and deserts. You accompany a monk as he sets out toward India, seeking original scriptures. He walks with quiet determination, his bowl, robe, and staff the only possessions he carries. Along the way, he stops at monasteries offering simple meals and sheltered beds. When pilgrims return years later, they bring not only texts, but stories of landscapes, cultures, and practices. Scholars translate these works in Chinese temples, carefully selecting characters that carry subtle meaning. The Silk Road becomes a spiritual artery, transmitting inner journeys as profoundly as physical ones. Travelers entering Central Asia during this flourishing period encounter cities rich with life. In Samarkand, blue-glazed tiles shimmer in sunlight, reflecting patterns of stars and flowers. Markets overflow with dried fruit, fine metalwork, and embroidered clothing. You watch artisans polish gems brought from distant mines. Music spills from tea houses, and storytellers gather crowds with tales of heroes, traders, and tricksters. Foreigners are common, their clothing, languages, and customs blending into the city's fabric. These places thrive because they welcome difference. Each new arrival brings something that fits into a wider mosaic. The Silk Road becomes a celebration of cultural permeability. Yet even in times of prosperity, the road remains physically demanding. Crossing the Karakum Desert, you feel wind lift grains of sand that prick your skin. Caravans move at measured pace, stopping at wells where buckets creak as they rise from narrow shafts. The sun glows white overhead, flattening shadows to thin lines. At night, traders take turns keeping watch, listening for shifting dunes or distant animal calls. A young guard adds wood to the fire, sending sparks upward. Despite hardship, travelers speak of opportunity ahead. New markets, new stories, new alliances. Risk and reward remain inseparable companions on this road. In Persia's great cities, Nishapur, Ray, and Merv, scholarship blooms. You enter a quiet courtyard where astronomers chart planetary movements with bronze instruments. Nearby, mathematicians study geometry and algebra. Libraries fill with works translated from Greek, Sanskrit, and Chinese. Caravans bring books as well as goods. A Persian scholar opens a newly arrived text containing diagrams of mechanical devices from China, marveling at unfamiliar designs. Knowledge flows more freely now than ever before. Ideas that might once have stayed confined to one region circulate widely, forming the intellectual undercurrent beneath Silk Road commerce. Far to the west, Byzantium stands as another gateway. In Constantinople, mosaic floors glitter beneath lamplight. Traders present silk bolts in imperial workshops, where workers study the weave with intense curiosity. The empire longs to produce its own silk, seeking to break dependence on Eastern supply. Eventually, two monks, according to later accounts, smuggle silkworm eggs hidden in hollowed walking staffs. This secret shifts global trade. New silk centers emerge, altering patterns of exchange. Even success born from espionage shows how interconnected the world has become. One region's gain reshapes the entire network. Throughout these centuries, sea routes expand dramatically. Ships cross from India to Arabia, carrying cotton, pepper, pearls, and dyes. Monsoon winds guide predictable seasonal travel. You stand on a wooden deck as sailors adjust woven sails, preparing to follow currents toward the Horn of Africa. These maritime paths do not replace overland caravans. They complement them. Ports like Calicut, Aden, and Siraf hum with activity, linking inland routes to oceanic ones. Goods move in complex patterns, silk by land, spices by sea, ideas by both. The Silk Road becomes not one ribbon, but an entire tapestry spanning hemispheres. But stability rarely lasts forever. By the 10th century, shifts in power, climate, and economics begin altering the road once again. You walk through a caravanserai, where merchants discuss rumors of unrest in distant valleys. Some routes have become less safe. Others suffer from declining water sources as rivers change course. Still, trade adapts. New cities rise where old ones fade. Communities adjust their rhythms, finding opportunity in change. The Silk Road survives by bending rather than breaking, its spirit defined not by certainty, but by resilience. Every upheaval creates new patterns of movement across the same ancient landscape. A major transformation arrives with the Mongol Empire. Under Genghis Khan and his successors, much of Eurasia becomes unified under a single administrative order. You walk through Karakorum, the Mongol capital, where craftsmen from many lands forge tools, shape silver bowls, and carve wooden saddles. Envoys arrive from distant kingdoms, their tents arranged in colorful circles outside the main settlement. The Pax Mongolica stabilizes vast territories. Patrols safeguard caravan routes. Banditry declines. Traders speak of traveling from China to the Black Sea with astonishing speed and relative safety. For a time, the Silk Road achieves unprecedented openness, a rare alignment of power and mobility. During this era, you accompany a merchant traveling westward from Khanbalik, the Mongol name for Beijing. The road is busy, filled with caravans bearing tea, porcelain, silk, furs, and medicinal herbs. Mongol relay stations provide fresh horses and shelter. Travelers praise the efficiency of the system. Messages move quickly. Maps improve. Administrators gather information from across the continent to strengthen governance. The Silk Road becomes a sophisticated communication network, carrying intelligence as effectively as goods. Movement feels almost effortless compared to earlier times, though the challenges of climate and terrain still demand respect. Ideas flourish under Mongol patronage. In major cities like Samarkand and Bukhara, scholars translate texts from Chinese, Persian, Arabic, and Greek. You enter a study hall where astronomers compare star tables created in different cultures, aligning data into more comprehensive charts. Medical knowledge circulates widely. A Persian physician learns acupuncture techniques from a Chinese colleague, while another explores herbal treatments from India. Artistic styles merge again. Miniature painters combine motifs from multiple traditions. Intellectual cross-pollination becomes one of the era's defining characteristics, woven quietly into daily life. Travel west into the lands of the Golden Horde. Here, nomadic lifestyles blend with settled trade. Along riverbanks, markets flourish where merchants buy and sell furs, honey, wax, leather goods, and imported luxuries. You watch a trader load wax and silk onto a small riverboat destined for Black Sea ports. Caravans cross wide grasslands where herds graze under open skies. The air smells of steppe grasses and wood smoke from distant camps. In many ways, The Mongol Empire echoes the Silk Road's earliest spirit: mobility, exchange, coexistence. Its vastness provides opportunity, but also depends on delicate balance. Inevitably, new challenges arise. The Black Death spreads along routes connecting continents. You pass through a village where healers attempt to care for the sick, burning herbs to purify the air. Caravans slow or divert. Cities impose restrictions. The same interconnectedness that once brought wealth now carries danger. The plague reshapes demographics, economies, and social structures across Eurasia. Many communities recover slowly. Some never fully rebuild. The Silk Road's vibrant weave loosens in places, its threads strained by loss. Yet people continue to travel, cautiously, thoughtfully, because trade and curiosity remain stronger than fear. Gunpowder and new military technologies spread westward. Paper-making techniques move in multiple directions. Printing innovations travel gradually, altering how knowledge is stored and shared. You watch a craftsman in a Persian workshop experiment with block printing, testing inks and woodcuts. Such technologies accumulate like sediments along the Silk Road, each layer enriching the next. Even when political boundaries shift, the road's intellectual pathways endure. Knowledge becomes a traveler with its own momentum, crossing borders that armies sometimes cannot. This quiet continuity helps sustain cultural links during turbulent periods. By the time the 15th century dawns, maritime trade expands even further. Powerful ships begin exploring open oceans rather than hugging coastlines. You stand at a port in southern China, watching large vessels fitted with multiple masts prepare for long voyages. These fleets can carry far more goods than any caravan. Gradually, sea routes overshadow land routes in both volume and efficiency. The Silk Road does not vanish, but its dominance fades. Caravans still travel, but fewer in number. Inland cities adjust their economies. The world is changing shape again, guided by new winds and new ambitions. Deep in Central Asia, you walk through the remains of once thriving Silk Road cities. Some lie half buried beneath drifting sand. Others persist as small settlements surrounded by ruins. Winds pass through empty archways, carrying dust and faint echoes of earlier bustle. Yet life continues. Shepherds graze flocks near old walls. Children play in courtyards that once saw merchants from across the world. The physical road declines, but the memory remains embedded in landscapes and traditions. The Silk Road's golden age becomes a chapter in human history, influential, luminous, and irreversibly changed. As you look back on the centuries you've traveled, the Silk Road appears not as a single entity, but as a shifting conversation across time. Goods mattered, but ideas mattered more. Philosophies, technologies, artistic styles, and beliefs, traveling far beyond their points of origin. Stand for a moment on a quiet ridge overlooking a broad plain. The land holds no signposts or borders from the past, only open space. Yet thousands of journeys once passed through here, shaping civilizations. The Silk Road's influence persists not in visible structures, but in the shared heritage it helped create across Eurasia. Consider the languages shaped by these interactions. You hear echoes of Persian in Central Asian dialects, hints of Sanskrit in Chinese Buddhist terminology, Greek medical terms in Arabic texts. Words travel like small seeds carried by the wind. Over generations, they take root, blending into local vocabularies. This linguistic exchange reveals a subtle truth. Cultures rarely move in straight lines. They mingle, borrow, reinterpret, and transform. The Silk Road made such blending inevitable, smoothing the edges between worlds and allowing new identities to form. Even today, shared words whisper stories of ancient encounters. Walk through a modern museum displaying Silk Road artifacts, glazed ceramics, embroidered textiles, coins with bilingual inscriptions, statues shaped by blended artistic traditions. Each piece reflects many hands: miners, weavers, carvers, merchants, monks. A small glass vial containing dried saffron hints at ancient kitchens. A bronze mirror reveals trade in beauty. A child's toy camel carved from wood suggests families who travel together. These objects feel humble, but collectively, they speak of a world connected long before the age of global travel. The Silk Road becomes tangible through these small details, each a quiet testament to human movement. In remote valleys, descendants of Silk Road communities still live with traditions shaped by centuries of exchange. You sit inside a yurt, warmed by felt layers and a small stove. The family shares tea flavored with spices originating far away. Outside, horses graze under a sky filled with drifting clouds. Songs sung here contain motifs that traveled thousands of miles. Wedding garments feature patterns drawn from mixed artistic lineages. Even recipes carry traces of distant origins. Daily life preserves the road's legacy, not through grand monuments, but through ordinary gestures repeated over generations. The modern world reflects the Silk Road's imprint in global trade networks. Containers move across oceans, highways cross continents. Goods shift from country to country with astonishing speed. Yet the underlying idea remains familiar: connection. The Silk Road was humanity's first large-scale experiment in long-distance exchange, economic, cultural, intellectual. Stand at a busy port today and watch cranes lift cargo onto massive ships. Though technology has changed, the impulse behind it feels ancient. People still seek to share, trade, learn, and discover. The Silk Road set that pattern in motion long ago. Now imagine the Silk Road from above. A vast web stretching across mountains, deserts, and seas. Over its long life, different sections glowed brightly at different times, like stars flickering in and out of sight. Some routes thrived under certain empires. Others faded only to revive centuries later. This shifting brightness forms the Silk Road's true shape, not straight or singular, but fluid, responsive, and alive. What endured was the movement itself, the steady pulse of caravans and ships carrying humanity's shared curiosity. Let the imagery soften now. Picture a caravan at dusk, the sky warming to shades of gold and violet. Camels kneel in a circle, their loads removed. Travelers prepare simple meals while someone tends a fire. Voices drop to murmurs as stars appear overhead. This quiet moment, repeated countless times through centuries, reveals the Silk Road's heart: cooperation. Whether negotiating storms, deserts, or foreign customs, people depended on each other. Trust formed slowly, step by step, across thousands of miles. The road endured because humans chose connection over isolation. As the Silk Road fades into memory, Imagine the last embers of a desert fire glowing under a cold sky. The caravans have moved on. The land is still. Yet echoes remain. Footprints in sand, chipped stones from hearths, worn paths along canyon floors. You carry the story with you, a tale of journeys, exchanges, transformations. The Silk Road becomes not a relic, but a reminder of what happens when worlds meet with curiosity rather than conquest. Its long arc settles gently into the quiet of night, leaving you calm, grounded, and ready for rest. Let the images drift now. Mountains fading into shadow, rivers winding through valleys, caravans dissolving into distant horizons. Feel the calm that settles over the long story you've traveled. The Silk Road's vast expanse narrows into a single impression, the peaceful rhythm of movement across time. All the journeys, exchanges, and moments soften into quiet memory. You are no longer on a mountain path or desert dune. You are here, settled in the present, safely separated from the road's challenges and wonders. Allow that sense of distance to deepen your rest. Return fully to the room around you. The sounds are gentle, familiar, maybe a faint hum, a soft breath, or the stillness of night. Your body relaxes as the long arc of history dissolves into comfort. The Silk Road, with all its motion and connection, becomes a distant echo. Let your breathing slow, as steady as caravan steps on packed earth. Let your mind loosen its hold on images and details. You are safe, quiet, and ready to drift into sleep, carried by the calm that lingers long after the story ends.